Welcome to the Dawn Jarvis Show with Dawn Jarvis, the diverse nurse. And in this podcast, we will be talking about healthcare, self-care, diversity, careers, and well-being from a Black woman's perspective. We're really happy that you're here. So if you're ready, let's get on with the show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Dawn Jarvis Show, the show where we talk to entrepreneurs and business owners and leaders about how they manage their own health and well-being, what keeps them focused and positive, and how they cope with the tough times. Today, I'm joined by Casandra Austin-McDonald, and I'm so pleased that I know her from a mastermind we were in together, and I'm so pleased to welcome her to the show. Casandra, welcome.
Thank you, Dawn, for having me.
You're so welcome. It's so good to see you. And you look very bright and breezy. I understand you're in Miami, which is a bit different to rainy London. So
Yeah.
How is it there?
It's beautiful. It's sunshine and palm trees.
I'm very, very jealous. It's a bit cooler in London. So it's really good. I'm going to introduce you now. So Casandra Austin-McDonald is a personal growth strategist and life coach and speaker, author, and the host of the Grow Thru It podcast. Casandra works with sensitive and empathetic women, helping them to elevate their self-love so that they can create the life they both desire and deserve. Casandra is also a mental health advocate and has been featured on several other podcasts, blogs, and various media outlets. We're so lucky to have you. It's really great to see you. So Casandra, tell us a bit about yourself and how you ended up here today.
Absolutely. It's funny because right before we started recording for the episode, you brought up the Suicide Prevention Day. And I was thinking, like, that's actually the start of my journey, is my own personal story of becoming a survivor of a near fatal suicide attempt. Gosh, I was like 12 plus years ago. And that's really when I started my journey. You know, I realized that I had a lot of unaddressed and unhealed trauma wounds that I needed to heal from, a very poor self-image, low self-esteem, didn't really love myself, was always ambitious and driven, which was the dangerous part because it was masked by my education and being driven and focused on my career and raising my son. But I had all these other issues going on. And so that really started my journey into elevating my self-love and discovering my purpose, and now guiding and supporting other women to do the same.
Thank you so much for being so vulnerable and, telling us that. It is World Suicide Prevention Day. It's the 10th of September 2021. Just to put that out there because this will be on the internet forever. But it's I was looking at the images around it and also wondering how I could sort of talk about that day. And I know that people who struggle with their mental health, it's difficult to do that. And I found it difficult to actually put anything on the internet because it felt so serious. And to do that, so thank you for sharing your story. And you shared with us that it was nearly fatal. It wasn't, thank goodness. But sort of how did you bring yourself forward after that terrible and traumatic event? Because you must have been in a very dark place to even have contemplated it. So and if anyone's listening, they're triggered, there are lots of places in the UK, Samaritans, I'm not sure in the US, where Casandra's from, where there's places that you can call if you feel that you need to reach out to someone and that you need some help. You're not alone. I want everyone to know that. So Casandra, going back to you, how did you move forward from that?
Well, it was in the hospital. So part of the story is that I had a grand mal seizure that knocked me unconscious because I overdosed on a bottle of antidepressant medication. And when I came to, the doctors told me I was lucky to be alive. And I remember realizing in that moment that I didn't really want to die. I just wanted to stop feeling what I was feeling on the inside. And it was the suffering in silence, the pain, and all that stuff. And I remember in that moment, it was like I made like this declaration to God where I was like, if you get me out of here, I promise I'm going to do something, like just get me out of here. Because I realized that I didn't want to die. I just wanted to feel relief. So after that, I started therapy, of course, to work on the trauma and to learn how to manage my mental health. And from there, I really just started to pour into myself. And that's when self-love became a way of being for me. I started to look at different categories of my life and evaluate, were those categories where I would like them to be? And I started to work toward them. So the first category I looked at was my physical self. And I looked at nutrition and movement. And I started changing the way that I ate. I started moving my body. And then from there, it turned into looking at my relationships. And then from there, I was looking at my finances. And then I started looking at my career, and I literally just started snowballing and looking at all these different categories of my life, and was like, you know what, why don't I just rebuild my life to have a life that feels good to me, for me, that I don't want to escape from. I found that a lot of us who suffer or have suffered from those types of conditions, there's this constant feeling and need to escape your reality. And I realized that if I would actually create a reality I wanted to live in, I may not feel that way. And so I just started working on it. And I'm happy to say I actually love my life now.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. And you look amazing. And so I love that. I love the fact that you sort of like took a holistic approach to your life. I love that you acknowledge that, you know, you were helped by a therapist and, you know, to deal with the trauma. Because I think that's really important, isn't it? Because, you know, the incident happened and it happened for a reason. And I really, you know, I salute you for saying that, you know, acknowledging that you didn't want to die, but you wanted to escape. And I think a lot of people feel like that. They just want to escape from their reality. I think that's the main thing I'm going to take from our conversation. And we're not even that very long into it. And then to sort of like look at your, you know, you talked about, you know, physical movement, you know, what you eat, you know, your relationships, who you're surrounded by, all which have an impact on, you know, how you live your life. And sort of I really like that sort of approach to it. And you do this through your work now, so how does that work? Because you do that through coaching or training?
Yeah, through coaching. I also facilitate workshops and do different speaking engagements. But it's funny because I was actually working with juvenile and adult offenders at the time of this attempt. And so I was already working in a professional setting of helping people. And I had a moment around the time of the attempt. I don't recall if it was before or after, but one of my clients, it was a kid, and I was facilitating a group session at the time. And he raised his hand. He was like, Miss Casandra, how did you forgive someone who hurt you? And I remember I was like, I don't think I know how to answer that question. Not from personal experience. I could read to him what we were going through in our workbook, but I couldn't answer the question. And I remember back then I was thinking, I'm here professionally trained. I have the education. I'm helping people. And I don't even know what this work looks like for me. So for me, it really became about becoming a student first, even though in that moment I was in a role professionally of helping people. I did a lot of case management work in the criminal justice system. And then from there, I took what I gained personally and I started to work with people for the coaching. I found that I had the skill set, I had the training to help people, but the missing link was me doing the work. And so by me doing the work, I feel like it's helped me to guide my clients now to know what their blind spots are, to help them experience breakthroughs, and to really give them that self on hands approach of, this is how you elevate your self-love. This is how you change your life. This is how you start to navigate tough situations. And I can guide them through that because I had to walk through it first. And so for me, it's always about being a student first, and then take what I learn and share it with those in my community and my clients.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I really like that, because I think that resonates with me as a nurse, as somebody who's a helping professional. And I know sort of as a business owner, when you're helping people, it's really important. So sometimes I think, it's really important to me to be authentic around helping. Yes. And you cannot be authentic if you're feeling in a way that you need to help yourself first. So, it's really important that, you need to look after your own health, and sort of if you're advising others, you can be empathetic. But if you've been through the situation and also manage the situation, what did you do and what your experience is? I'm a great believer in lived experience being a great teacher. And I think everyone's got something to share there. But with that, there's also sort of, there's the journey, isn't there? People have had this experience, but then what did they do? And then, how can they help people to get through their trauma and, support them whatever way they can. So that is absolutely fantastic. Now, you've written a book as well, haven't you? Tell us about the book.
So in 2017, I published my first book. It's called Unclothed: Memoir of a Naked Soul. And it's my story from, probably birth. Up until before I met my husband, which on social media, he's known as the Mister. And so the book ends before I meet him. And so for those who had read my book and then they were connected to me on social media, they saw the whole journey of oh, she met someone and she's getting married.
That's amazing. And I've seen the pictures and it all looks fabulous. You look very much in love. Yes, it's lovely. It's lovely. How long have you been married now?
We've been together it's been over 7 years, and we've been married for over 3 years now.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. That's going good. And you have a podcast too. What do you talk about in your podcast?
So the Grow Thru It podcast, I love to talk about all things personal growth related. I have talked about relationships. I've talked about mental health challenges. I've talked about all different facets of the work that I do as it pertains to your inner self, the relationship you have with yourself. So I just love to hit on any category that resonates with me and my work. And I either interview people or I talk about my own experiences and I share it there on the podcast.
That's brilliant. And what do you think sort of the relationship you have with yourself, so you talk about self-love and, some people, it is the in thing. A lot of people talk about self-love at the minute, and probably because we've been through the pandemic, and how was the pandemic for you? And was it more difficult, or did it make it more important to sort of look after yourself?
Yeah. Like everybody else, I experienced challenges during the pandemic. I experienced just as much of shock and overwhelm as anyone else. But I will tell you, I became a believer of my work because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
I used all of my tools and systems on myself. I became the student of my own work, and it worked. And if anything, for me personally, it did a few things. It validated my work that I do for my clients, but it also showed me that I do have that relationship with myself, even during the hard times, even during the tough times. I practice what's called radical self-compassion and self-care. And I don't mean self-care in the sense of bubble baths and pedicures and massages. I mean in the sense of not being hard on myself and giving myself grace and kindness, and allowing myself time to rest, and not feeling guilty about it, And so I had to basically pour all of that good stuff into myself during that challenging time. And it really helped me to come out to the other side. This year has been absolutely incredible. I mean, obviously I'm still experiencing challenges, but this year, considering what happened last year, is an absolute miracle. And I believe it's because I got deeply connected to myself, and I just loved on myself and gave myself that same love I so freely give to everyone else. I poured it into myself, and it helped me to navigate the pandemic in a healthy way.
That's good, and it's really good that to see that you're prospering and thriving this year. I think it was a challenge for all of us, and I think even as we're coming out, I mean, coming out and sort of into the new normal. I'm not actually sure what that means actually, because it's very different for everybody. It depends what time of the year it is. We're going into winter in the UK. And, you know, people are back at school and at college and university. So, you know, things could change in a heartbeat. So I think people have a lot of fear about what the future holds. But I think you are right in that if you've got sort of this bedrock, this foundation of self-love and, you know, foundation of what your values are and what, you know, what you believe and what your desires are, then, you know, that will help you even in the tough times. What would you like our listeners to sort of learn in the interview?
There's this saying that it's funny because I started saying it a long time ago, but I didn't know that this quote actually came from someone. But I often say that wherever you go, there you are. And what I mean by that is that it doesn't matter if you're in a new relationship, if you're in a new location, if you're in a new job, yourself is there. And a lot of times when I connect with people, they are wanting to escape something. They're wanting to escape a relationship or their location or their job. And what I have discovered is that typically when we reconnect with ourselves and we get connected to our own wants, needs, and desires, and we start to fulfill that for ourselves and give ourselves those things, that feeling of needing to escape or to be somewhere else starts to dissipate, and you really start to learn how to live a more authentic life. And so really just getting your people to listen and know that you are the best relationship you're going to have is with yourself. And you've got to know how to maintain that and manage that, because like I said, wherever you go, there you are. And so, you know, we all saw last year with a worldwide pandemic, most of us had to sit with ourselves, face ourselves. That was the time to really realize that you can't escape anything. There was nowhere to go. And you really just have to learn how to love on you and give yourself that same love you so freely give to everyone else.
I love that. I love that. That is amazing. Absolutely amazing. So how do people get in touch with you, Casandra? How do people if they want to work with you, if they want to hear more about you, how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah. So I'm all over social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. I think I'm on TikTok too a little bit.
Yeah.
I
haven't tried TikTok. That's my next thing. I'm going to do that.
I think I'm a consumer more than I'm a content creator on TikTok, but I'm going to work on that.
Yeah.
But my name is Casandra Austin-McDonald. Casandra spelled with one S. And then you could always go to my website, www.casandraaustin-mcdonald.com. And if you go to the resources tab, I also have a free gift for those listening. It's called the Self-Love Beliefs You Need in 2021 Masterclass. And so I share 10 self-love beliefs that are super powerful to help you elevate your self-love in 2021 and beyond.
That's amazing. I'm going to try that myself, I think, definitely. And do you have a Facebook group, or do you have a community as well?
I do. My free community on Facebook is called Self-Love for Empathic Souls. So you can go inside of there. That's typically where I hold all of my free masterclasses and challenges and things like that. And then where I call us self-lovers, all of our self-lovers gather around and share what's going on in our world.
Fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic. And is there something that you'd like to leave people with? And I said earlier, a lot of people talk about self-love, and I know that some people find that really, really hard. I think especially empathic people, because they're used to giving to other people, and so they really struggle. Sometimes I struggle when people say, oh, you know, you need to look after yourself, you need to treat yourself, you need to do things for yourself, and not sort of like put all your love and channel your attention through others. And then, and sometimes, you know, I think, so what do I want to do? What do I, you know, how do I go about that? So have you got any sort of guidance or any thoughts for people who might be struggling a little bit with that sort of self-love and belief?
Yeah. The main thing is you have to know that if your cup is halfway full, like for instance, my water bottle, there's only this much left in there, you know? Yeah. So once it's gone, it's gone. There's nothing left. And so you have to know what that looks like for you. You have to know, when is that capacity inside of you starting to get depleted. For me, self-love is about keeping my own cup full and overflowing. And the overflow is what I give to everyone else. And what's in my cup is for me. If I start giving from what's in my cup, that's when burnout happens. That's when fatigue happens. That's when frustration happens and overwhelm, and us wanting to expect people to give to something to us that we should be giving to ourselves. And so really just learning how to manage, what does that feel like for you to have your own cup full and overflowing, and knowing how to maintain that for your life.
That's amazing. I really like that. And I like the water bottle analogy. So, that when it's gone, and you need to know what that looks like for you. That is amazing. Thank you so much, Casandra. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. And so I loved all your tips. If you want to get hold of Casandra, she's all over social media. She's also TikToking apparently as well. So that's a lesson for us. I know that you're going to have a fabulous weekend, because I know you're seeing some friends of ours in Miami this weekend, to have a fabulous time there, and say hello to everybody for me, and have a fantastic. Thank you very much, and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to The Dawn Jarvis Show. If you enjoyed this episode, there are 2 things you can do. Number 1, leave Dawn a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. It would mean so much to her if you took a moment out of your time to post your thoughts on the show. It will help Dawn reach so many more people and help them with their well-being. Number 2, subscribe to Dawn's email list, the Diverse Nurse Digest, using the link in the show notes. Until the next time, thank you and goodbye.